Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Vodcast 1.2 Identifying Health Risk. Suppose there are two babies that are born on the same day in the same city in the United States. Which one's going to live longer? Which one's going to have a higher quality of life? Do you know? Can you predict that? Well, to answer those questions, you would have to consider the different factors that influence a person's health. And that's going to be the first thing that we talk about. Sorry, hang on just a second. Identifying health risks. So factors that can influence our health: heredity, environment, culture, media, technology, healthcare, and behavior. How do all of these affect our health? So the first one we're going to talk about is heredity. To some extent, your level of health is already determined when you're born. These are traits that are passed on to you from your parents. So let's back up just a second, go back to that definition. Heredity, all the traits that are passed on biologically from parent to child. If there is a genetic predisposition for diabetes, does that mean that you are going to be diabetic when you get older? Maybe, but maybe not. It depends on the choices you make in your life. So other things that are passed on to us: eye color, skin color, hair color. Can these affect our health? Yeah. If you have a fair skin, fair light colored skin, then you are more apt to develop skin cancer. If you know that someone in your family, females, have breast cancer, then you could possibly have that gene be at a higher risk to develop that disease. But even if you inherit a risk factor, you can still lower your overall risk by avoiding other risk factors. So, if you have fair skin, be sure to use sunscreen. Women who inherit a risk factor for the breast cancer, choose not to smoke, because smoking is another big risk factor for breast cancer. Another part of your heredity is your gender. So whether you're male and female, gender can influence your health because risk factors may vary between males and females. Testicular cancer, prostate cancer, these are in males because the females do not have those organs. Ovarian cancer, cervical cancer, those occur only in females. So that's how your gender can affect your health. Next thing we're going to talk about is our environment. So the environment. All of the physical and social conditions that surround you can influence your health. How is that possible, you might ask? Well, we're going to talk about social health and physical health. Social health is the people you spend time with. This is going to be your family, your friends, classmates, or other people in your neighborhood, in your community. Most of the time, we learn our first basic health lessons from our family. We learn to wash our hands. We learn to brush our teeth before we go to bed. Look both ways before crossing a street. Do those affect our health? Absolutely. If you don't look both ways and you get hit by a car, are you still healthy? Maybe not. Family members can also affect our mental and emotional health. Your friends can influence you in many ways. You may have a classmate or a friend who is a huge risk taker, and they peer pressure you or bully you into doing things that you wouldn't normally do. They can also be positive if you choose friends who show concern for your health as well as their own. I'm going to show you a short little video clip here. This is one of my favorite TV shows.
Sheldon, there is no algorithm for making friends.
Just for a second. Okay, so this is Big Bang Theory. And you have this character who is currently on the screen, Leonard, and you're about to see a guy named Sheldon. Sheldon is an extremely smart cookie. He is extremely intelligent. However, he has a hard time making friends. That is a part of our social health. So he is trying to figure out a friendship algorithm. Basically, an algorithm is just a mathematical equation. He is trying to figure out a mathematical equation for making friends. So let's watch this for a second.
Well, hear him out. If he's really onto something, we could open a booth at Comic-Con, make a fortune. See, my initial approach to Kripke had the same deficiencies as those that plagued Stu the Cockatoo when he was new at the zoo. Stu the Cockatoo?
Yes, he's new at the zoo.
It's a terrific book. I've distilled its essence into a simple flowchart that will guide me through the process. Have you thought about putting him in a crate while you're out of the apartment? Hello, Kripke. Yeah, Sheldon Cooper here. It occurred to me that you hadn't returned any of my calls because I hadn't offered any concrete suggestions for pursuing our friendship. Yeah, perhaps the two of us might share a meal together. Yeah, I see. Well, then perhaps you'd have time for a hot beverage. Popular choices include tea, coffee, cocoa. I see. No, wait, don't hang up yet. But what about a recreational activity? I bet we share some common interests. You tell me an interest of yours. Really? On actual horses? Tell me another interest of yours. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I have no desire to get in the water till I absolutely have to. Tell me another interest of yours.
Uh-oh, he's stuck in an infinite loop.
I can fix it. It's interesting, but isn't ventriloquism by definition a solo activity? Yeah. Wait, tell me another interest of yours. Is there any chance you like monkeys? What is wrong with you? Everybody likes monkeys. Hang on, Kripke. A loop counter and an escape to the least objectionable activity. Howard, that's brilliant. I'm surprised you saw that. Gee, why can't Sheldon make friends? All right, Kripke, that last interest strikes me as the least objectionable, and I would like to propose that we do that together. Tomorrow. Yes, I'll pay. All right, goodbye. All right. Time to learn rock climbing.
Okay, well, you may or may not have found that interesting or funny. If you didn't get it or nothing, ask me tomorrow. I'll explain it in class. But we wonder why Sheldon has problems making friends. Okay, so physical environment. This is both your indoor and outdoor surroundings. It can be the air that you're breathing and the water that you drink. It's your exposure to disease-causing organisms, to loud noise, radiation from the sun, and things like that. So being aware of potential health risk or of potential environmental factors can help protect your health. If you know that you're breathing in smoke that's been exhaled by a smoker, you're at risk. You can try to avoid secondhand smoke. If you know that loud noises damages your hearing, then you may be more likely to keep your music at a less than harmful level. So these are ways to be proactive about your health. Next thing we're going to talk about is our culture. Culture. These are the beliefs and patterns of behavior that are shared by a group of people and passed from generation to generation. The group may be a nation. It could be a region of a country, an ethnic group, anything like that. Some aspects of the culture can be your language. These have little effect on your health. Other aspects, such as the foods we eat, they can impact your health big time, and also the way we show emotions. For example, in some cultures, people eat little or no meat, but in others, meat is the main part of our diet. In some cultures, public displays of affection are typical, but in others, it's more common to keep your emotions to yourself. So you have to find the happy balance and figure out what is right for you without being disrespectful to your culture. The next thing we're going to talk about is media. And when we use that term, we're going to call it forms of communication that provide news and entertainment. But it's basically the things that we use to do jobs faster, to do things quicker. How much time do you spend a week watching TV or listening to music or playing video games or going to a movie? Do you read magazines and newspapers? All of these involve media. Think about TV, and so these are examples: TV, radio, magazines, newspapers. These can have a positive or a negative influence. Think about, on average, teens spend about 20 hours a week watching TV. How can TV have a positive health influence? Well, you might receive useful information from a public service announcement or from a news report on a health topic, or you might learn about a medical issue from a TV series or a talk show. But it can also have a negative impact. Sometimes we spend too much time in front of the TV and we become couch potatoes instead of exercising. Or you don't relate to your friends and family because you're taking part in too much TV. You're watching TV too much. Some characters on TV shows may be poor role models, but that's what we see every day, so that's what we want to do. We indulge in risky behaviors because of the people that we're watching. Advertisers, a lot of times, present misleading claims about health products that they want you to buy. So keep in mind of where you're getting the information from. Is it a valid source? is it reliable? So TV, radio, magazines, newspapers. And then technology. These are the items we use to do things better and faster. There's lots of great things with technology, but again, it's kind of like media. It can have a negative influence as well. Cell phones, computers, iPads, laptops, any of these things, e-readers. Doctors use advances in technology to detect problems sooner and to improve the quality of life of patients who are already sick. Many of us use the internet to learn about health topics and different things like that. But using the internet and other forms of technology like this requires you to use caution and good judgment. Some websites provide accurate information, but others can be misleading and self-serving. Also, you never know who's on the other side of that computer. A 12-year-old can create a website. So you got to be able to validate the information. Spending too many hours in front of the computer, and in this case, usually it's on your cell phone now, limits how much time you exercise. It limits that face-to-face contact we have with each other, so we're not helping our social health that much. Moving on to healthcare. This is the medical care provided by doctors, nurses, dentists, and therapists. Your health is influenced by the health care that you receive and the health care that is available to you. Do you have insurance? Or can you afford to go to the doctor? Can we afford good doctors? Those are things that have a huge impact. The service must be in a location that's easy to get to. It's got to be open on weekends and evenings, things like that. And you need some form of health insurance so that you don't have to pay the cost of all those checkups and treatments and medicines. That gets expensive. Behavior. How can your behavior have an influence on your health? So the definition of behavior is the actions that you take. Suppose a friend came up to you and said, a group of us are going swimming tonight at the lake after dark. Be ready at 8. I'll pick you up. What would you do? Would you go along without giving it a second thought? Would you stop and think about the risk involved? Of all the influences on your health, your behavior, the actions that you take, have the greatest impact on your health. And some of these behaviors become habits. Okay, a habit is a behavior that is repeated so often that it becomes almost automatic. Cigarette smokers, that becomes a habit. Things like that. Those are negative influences. For example, you may have a habit of brushing your teeth. That's a positive habit. That's a good thing. It'll help prevent tooth decay. You may have a habit of staying up late watching TV. That's not so healthy because it reduces the number of hours you sleep. Unhealthy habits can be broken, but you have to set your mind to breaking a habit. When you find that you keep repeating a behavior that may threaten your health, set a goal to change that behavior. It can take 7 days to make or break a new habit. 7 days to break one, 7 days to create a new habit. So it is possible. If you realize that you have a bad habit, stop it. Okay, and lastly, we're going to talk about evaluating our health risk. So how do you know when something's not going to be healthy for you, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, or socially? You're going to have to think about risk factors. A risk factor is any condition, an action or condition that increases the likelihood of injury, disease, or other negative outcomes. For example, one risk factor of a fad diet is that it may not include all the foods your body needs. Fad diets are those diets you see on TV all the time. People advertise, lose 10 pounds in 1 week. That's not real. That's not possible, and it's possible, but it's not healthy. So after you analyze your risk factors, consider both the short-term and long-term consequences. Short-term consequences are going to affect you immediately. Long-term consequences, it may not bother you till somewhere down the road. So let's say you take a shortcut through an unfamiliar yard and you end up with a nasty case of poison ivy. That is a short-term injury or short-term consequence. Let's say you get in a car, you don't put your seatbelt on, your friend has a wreck, you get thrown out of the vehicle. That's going to have a lot of short-term consequences, but you're going to have long-term consequences with that as well. The things that you're eating right now, the intake of fats, sugars, salt, things like that may not affect you right now, but 20 years down the road, you may be a diabetic, you may have heart disease and different things like that. Then you want to talk about the things that there are risk factors that you can control, and there's risk factors you cannot control. So all of those that I just talked about, the short and long-term consequences, those are things that it could fall under either category. So risk factors that you can control. Let's say a friend invites you to a beach. You're worried that you have fair skin, so you can't control the color of your skin, but you can control whether or not you use sunscreen. The risk factors that you can control: level of physical activity, your intake of fat, sugar, and salt, use of tobacco, alcohol, and other drugs, use of protective gear such as seatbelts, and who you hang out with, your choice of friends. After that, you're going to have analyze the benefits versus the risk. What decision is best for you? Are the benefits really, do they outweigh the risk of the possible decision that you might be making? So there's no such thing as a risk-free life. Most of the things that we do involve some form of risk. And without taking risk and trying new things, you're never going to grow as an individual. So how can you decide which risks are worth taking and which are not? Weigh the risk versus consequences. Suppose that a friend who only has a learner's permit offers to drive you home so that you don't miss your curfew. What are the risks and the benefits of accepting that ride? You got to really think about that. Okay, so that is all of section 2.